Alright, so we are back with another OP09 deck list. Now today, I just want to say thank you so much for all the views and likes and subscriptions we've been getting. Really appreciate it. I just make these contents for fun. I really enjoy the One Piece trading card game. I do want to go to more events, so if you want to support this channel, please check out my tcgplayer affiliate link, which is nice, where if you purchase through that link, I get like a 3% or 4% commission on whatever you buy. Little small stuff, but I really appreciate the support you get. Plus, if you're looking to shop this deck, you can kind of see the list here. Alright, so let's get started with our deck list. Now, this is Smoker OP09. This is going to be an interesting deck because a lot of the cards that you have here are actually on play or when attacking. So we have Brook on play. Oh, sorry, activate main or resting and on attacking. We have the Laboon that may rest this character, give one of your opponent's characters -4 costs. We have the Borsalino blockers. We have the Kuzan 10 costs. We have the one-legged soldier not on play. Activate main. You may send this character to the trash, give up to one of your opponent's characters -3 costs. Brook is an on play, but sometimes they don't tech out for the Brook. It's nice against the Nami decks or various other decks that you will see. Kaido, activate main once per turn, discard one card from your hand. This character was played this turn, up to one of your opponent's characters, 7 cost or less lower characters in the trash. Then your opponent discards one card from their hand. This is nice because it's also activate main, and it forces the opponent to trash a card, and with the -7 cost, I can just minus the cost to get rid of it, or use my leader build to get rid of an 8 or more cost character. We have Sasaki, which is also activate main. We have Jack, which is activate main, and also resting. That lets me get additional cost in this, so it can't be KO'd by effects as well as getting rid of a 3 cost or lower. But with these effects, it becomes very easy to do so. We have Tashika, which is also activate main. Rest this character, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during his turn. We have Monkey D. Garp. This is a very interesting character because I just rest it every time and I just KO a 4 cost. 4 cost is going to be very good in this meta just because there's a lot of characters out there that play, leaders out there that play 4 cost characters, and having this as a Navy character of 6k is really decent. We have Kobe, which is activate main, rest this character, KO one of your opponent's characters with cost of 2 or less, Ice Age, and Patchwork. Now, this deck is really centered around how the black meta is getting rid of a lot of the on-play abilities. It's hard to do on-play, and a lot of people mentioned that in my last video about how, with Blackbeard out there, your on-play abilities are going to be very difficult. And of course, that's the case. Now, this Smoker deck is centered around playing bigger bodies like the Kaido, the Kuzan, the Jack, the Garp, even Laboons, playing those activate main characters so that I can work around some of the abilities of Blackbeard. This is a really good deck to play against Blackbeard because you are able to remove a lot of their characters even without the on-play ability. Now, there's no Sabo in this deck, there's no Moria, there's a lot of cards that are not in this deck because we're working around the Blackbeard's on-play ability. This is a black deck centered around going high and KOing as much as you can by resting or activate main or when attacking. So I hope you enjoyed this deck list, and let's get started. Alright, so we're going to play BY Luffy, which is a very difficult leader, and one of the reasons why is because they just are able to summon some of the units and just get their leader super buffed. Now, I am thankful though that not Blackbeard or some of the other leaders, just because I feel like I'm more comfortable against this matchup, just because I have a lot of upscale swing, and I have a lot of bigger cost characters. Now, they're going to play the Luffy to get rid of my Brook, which is fine, because now they're down to 1 life using their 2 little characters. Now, I'm going to have a decent amount on to actually force them to get rid of some of the cards from the trash. Now that's actually very helpful, and I've done this in my Moria deck. Just because it's nice to get rid of their cards from the trash because they can't summon it from the trash. Now, granted, they do have a lot of cards still left, so it's just one of those things that you just use once in a while, depending on what they play. Now they swing 7k at me, and I actually counter out here just because I want to avoid the early pressure and I want to play some of my larger units. In this case, they have a fairly decent amount of options with 5k costs. I'm going to swing at them for 7k, kind of force them to use some counters or block or just take it. In this case, I have 7 Dawn left. They have their Sabo, which they can actually be able to block any of my swings. So that's one of the things that I'll have to just figure out, and I kind of work around, if you would. So in this case, I swing, they counter, and I play my Jack, which is just good to just have. This forces them to, like, whatever they play, it can also just KO. And the Kaido is very helpful because even though their Sabo has not being able to KO, if they summon another one, this Kaido can just trash it. Now here they're going to play use their leader ability, play the Kuzan, and use the Luffy. The Luffy's effects doesn't go off because my characters are just a little bit too higher in level. They swing 10k at my Brook, which I let it go. Now 10th Dawn, I have a lot of options here, but I'm going to actually play my 10 drop Kuzan. I mean, there's a lot of options I could do, granted, but it's still very helpful that there are other Kuzans not affected by the Sabo effect. So I'm going to use Kuzan to KO their Kuzan, and then I'm going to use my Jack ability to KO their Sabo, which is nice because I have my 10 drop Kuzan, which makes all their units -5 in cost. I have my leader still up, and I know they have one card, one life in hand, one card in life, but in this case, just wait for them to pass. Now they play their Nami, which is a card I haven't seen a lot of Luffy's play, and they play another 4-drop Kuzan. I can see what they're doing because this 10-drop Kuzan is just a very dangerous card to deal with. Having the ability to just minus their cost gets rid of a lot of their board. In this case, they swing 7k. I actually counter out still, and then I take the next hit. They have some other units on the board. They have a blocker, which I could get rid of and kind of swing big into, and I was just calculating counters, see like what would be the best routes. But in this case, you know, there's just a lot of options I have, and I don't actually need to worry too much about it. So one of the things I do here, because there's a lethal swing, of course, even with their Nami, but I'm still going to use my Jack ability to get rid of their Kuzan. Kuzan's just a very scary character to play. I'm going to use my Kaido, which is actually very helpful, just to get rid of their blocker, but also makes them trash the card from their hand. So even if they had some counters in there, I just get rid of it. Now, I do give them the life, which I'm not as worried about just because they don't have that many options. Even if they played a Sabo blocker, I just have so many big units on the board that I can just swing super high and reach even above Luffy's, leader ability. Now, in this case, they play their Luffy, the baby Luffy, because they don't actually have the Sabo baby in their trash. Now, here, with only one blocker up, I just have so many options, and they're a 5k leader. With 4 cards in hand, there's just a lot of things I can do. I do play my Garp to get rid of their blocker, just to have a more free swing. Swinging 9ks here is very fine, just because they have 4 cards in hand, and I also have my 10 drop there. So that's going to be the BY Luffy, but we finally face a Blackbeard. Now, this deck, I will admit to you, is centered around how Blackbeard gets rid of your on-play abilities. So Blackbeard's one of the ones that I want to get rid of. Now, Brook is an on-play ability to KO the -1 cost to the 1 cost and then KO it. That one card is just very dangerous because it's just going to give them more and more cards. Now, I do KO it with the on-play ability, which is nice, and I don't mind it too, just because I have a pressure there, and they didn't use their leader ability early on. Please excuse me eating a banana. I do enjoy eating while I play, especially bananas because my muscles were sore from exercising. So they're able to swing at me for 5k, and here I decide to just draw a card, and I decide what would be the next play. So with 7 Dawns available, I have to decide what would be the best route to do. Keep in mind, you'll always have to keep track of what the opponent does in terms of whether they're swinging at you or whether there are black holes available or if they nullify your leader ability. So in this case, I'm going to start playing my Borsalino 4 cost blocker. This is going to be very tough for them because they can't get rid of it, and they're going to also start getting cards using their Lafitte character. Now, with that in play, they do have a lot of cards that they're playing around, and I actually have to start worrying about, what would be some good options to deal with here. Now, they take the Teach blocker, which is very strong, and of course I don't mind it as well. It's just one of those characters that I just had to assume they're going to play no matter what, considering they have so many blocker searchers for it. So what I'm going to first do is KO their first Lafitte using my Garp ability. I'm going to swing at their leader again and then play a toy soldier. I don't want to spend too many swings into the Lafitte. Even if they search for it, I know that they're at 10 Dawn, so they're likely not going to use it again just because they want to play the 10 drop searcher. Now they nullify my leader ability, which is something you always have to keep track, especially against a Blackbeard, just because they have a lot of that opportunities to do so. But I've reduced their cost and play my Kaido. Now this toy soldier comes through because I was expecting them to play the 10 cost, and with that I'm able to KO their blocker. Now Kaido's really good. It trashes the card from their hand, and it gives me a lot of options for what they can do next. I could have done the Garp effect to KO their Lafitte, but at the same time, I wasn't as worried because I figured they're going to play another 10 drop. That's one of the things that I've kind of noticed, especially facing a lot of Blackbeards, is like they need that 10 cost, all those Dawns, to play their blocker. So that Lafitte kind of just stays on the board. In this case, I have a lot of options available here. I know that with their leader ability, I don't have an on-play. So I have to decide what would be the best option here. So I use my, I play my 10 cost But it's not enough because my Garp is KO's a 4 cost and their Blackbeard's a 10 cost. Granted, this could happen, but they still nullify with another 10 drop. Now here they swing 5k to me, and I decided to take it just because my Laboon's available and I do want to play that out. Here I know that their Blackbeards are 5 costs now, which is going to be very helpful for me to kind of work around. So I'm going to play my Laboon and then reduce one of their costs there. I'm going to use my Garp to KO one of their blockers, and then I'm going to start swinging big into their leader. Now they do have the blocker available, which they can counter out, but then I had more enough characters to swing big into them, regardless if they block. Now we're facing another Buggy. Now Buggy's a leader that I actually don't have much experience in. I was really excited to get one match in, just because I know they're very strong, and to be able to just work around what they can have. Now from here, I'm going to start swinging into them. I know Buggy's very aggressive with their summons, but I want to be able to summon as many units as I can to just kind of KO them as soon as they come out. Now here they play their 7 costs, which is going to be very dangerous because they just keep summoning big units, and with their draw power, this is a very difficult matchup. I'm going to reduce the cost of their 7 costs Crocodile. I'm trying to decide between the Garp and the Brook. I do decide to do the Brook just because I want to keep my Garp active. So having the counter, so they swing at Laboon, I counter out. Brook is being a 6A will be good for swinging back at their characters when they swing at me, and I don't know if they have anything that will just get rid of it this early on. So there I decided to let go of the Laboon with that large of a swing, and then they have enough Dawns where they play a 7 cost, and then I have to decide from here. Now with 8 Dawns available, and with considering what cards they have available, I have a lot of good options. Now this is why I like playing a lot of my cards that I do play. I'm going to reduce the cost to swing 7k into their 6k, kind of just get some 2ks out of their hand, and they let it go the second time. I'm going to reduce the cost of the Crocodile once more and get KO out with Garp this time. Now these characters are really nice because they're going to force the opponent to either swing at me or to kind of get rid of these, and it gives me a lot of flexibilities for what they do next. So they're going to swing 8k into my 6k, and then I take the 5k. They're going to KO my character or return my character to my hand, which is fine. I don't mind that. And with 10 Dawn, I have to decide what would be the best routes. Now I do want to take their cards lightly just because they have a lot of big characters on the board that can swing twice into me, and I don't want to lose the pressure game, so I KO the character there, and then I swing into the other 5k for 7k. Now that goes true, and I'm really glad it did because I don't want to get down to one life against them, and I counter out of that swing there. The Jack is just too dangerous, and with whatever they play, it's just I have to work around what they summon. So in this case, I played through because they have the 7 cost and 5 costs, and I have to decide what would be their best route for here. I can do the Ice Age, and that would be really good just to get rid of their Crocodile, but I'm actually going to use a Kaido ability to trash a card from their hand. That's going to make them harder for them to get rid of stuff, and then I'm going to Ice Age the character and KO with my Jack. So I get rid of their entire board just with that combo there, and they're down to 2 life. Now I cannot counter out of the 10k with my 8k. They're going to play their Mihawk, and then from here I'm going to have a lot of decisions to make here. So I'm going to play with a Kaido, which is going to trash a card, and then from here I'm going to swing 6k into the leader and another 9k. They don't have any cards life left, and considering what they had in hand, there wasn't enough for them to kind of catch up. Now, Shanks is a leader that I also haven't much experience in, and I'm actually very excited to play one just because I know they're very aggressive and they have a lot of capabilities, especially with the new support for red. Now, I'm going to KO their Sanji, which I know is a very dangerous card, and Colby kind of works as a blocker for me. They summon another Colby, which is kind of interesting because they just have so many options available. I consider using my Brook to just KO their Sanji, but I think it'll just be a little bit of waste, so I play my Borsalino instead, which is going to serve as a blocker for me, a 6k blocker, and they cannot be KO on the opponent's turn. So they're going to swing 7k with their Sanji, and I let it go, and then they swing into my leader again, which I block. In this case, the Shanks is very dangerous because they can get rid of some of my costs and my swings. I'm going to get rid of their one character there and swing 7k into the Sanji, just because if I swing into their leader, they can use leader effect, and I just want to get rid of that Sanji. That's just a little bit kind of getting free 7k swings in. So from there, I'm going to have to decide for my next turn, see what they play, and then kind of decide from there. 10k swing. I don't like that I'm taking a lot of life early on, just because this leader is just very dangerous. I start to swing 6k into them just because I know they have the ability to reduce the cost, and I use my Kuzan ability to get rid of one of the characters. I'm at 2 life and they're at 4 life. They swing 5k. I have to counter out of this because I don't want to get low. And they swing the 12k rush at me. Now, this is going to be a very dangerous position to be in just because I know that they have the capabilities to play Goldie Roger. Now, I consider almost not swinging just because I don't want them to get their card from their life, but I figured they already have it considering the way they're playing. Now, I play my another 10 drop Kuzan just to get rid of their 10 cost Shanks. They swing 9k at me. Now this is very dangerous. I have to counter out of this, and it's another 8k. I have no choice but to take this. Now this is where I'm in danger. I either have to win it now or they're gonna kill me. And in this case, they use their leader ability and they showcase they had enough counter. Now here, I'm kind of just stuck because I can KO their characters, but if they have a Goldie Roger, it's over. I consider not swinging here to avoid giving them the card, but I'm also like, this do or die. I'm either they have it or they don't, and I play my 10. They play their Kuzan, their Goldie Roger, and I lose. Elite Presence, and I'm going to have to decide what would be the best route for this. Against them, I'm considering playing some of the smaller units, but I also don't want to just because I want to use them for counters. Now, in this case, they summon their units and swing 7k at me, which is always a very dangerous combination. And then from here, we're going to decide what would be the best move for here. I don't like how they have units on the board, so I'm going to have to just start swinging 7k into their Jinbei and see what else I can KO. Now, I could have done that for the Blackbeard instead, but I liked swinging the 7k on the Jinbei just to guarantee it died. Now, they summon the Moria, which is going to be very difficult because they get the Jinbei combos off, and then they use their leader ability to get Jinbei and Boa Hancock, which is still detrimental. So with a 8k swing at the leader, I'm going to have to just take this life, and then they swing 6k and counter out for 2. Now here, I'm going to have to decide what would be the best routes. I do like how I have more units, more flexibility now with early cards to just play around. So I'm going to get rid of their blocker, and then from here, swing a 5k into their Jinbei, which kind of just pressures them to kind of get rid of certain cards from their hand if they have it, and then swing another 5k, which in this case, they also counted it. It makes sense for them to use so many counters just so they keep having 4 characters on the board. 7k swing, I decide to take, and then from here, I kind of let them decide. They swing at the Brook, which I let go, and then from here, they swing an 8k into my 6k, which I let go. Oh no, I counter out, sorry. Just because the Garb's going to be very helpful and I have to get rid of the 6 costs, so I get rid of my Garb. With 8 cards left, I have to decide what would be the best route. I use my Jack ability, which is going to KO one of their units. I consider keeping the Brook, but I think that's fine, and swing 6k into the leader. I feel a little better until they red rock my Jack, which is so detrimental, and now I'm back to square one. With less cards in hand, there's just summoning units left and right. I have to decide what would be the best route here. I could play the Brook and kind of swing big into them, which I probably should have done, just considering how I don't have that many units in hand. But I also want to get rid of some cards in their hand just so that they have less opportunities to counter outs, which kind of works out in the end. Now, of course, they swing 10k at me, which I can't counter, and then they also decide to swing another 10 at me, which was just the right number. So yeah, Dofi was very difficult, but we see someone in the lobby playing Edward Newgate, and why not? Let's get some matches there. So I'm going to have 3 Dawns available, and from here I'm going to have to decide what would be the best routes to swing into the leader. I swing 9k just to get the cards, get the ball rolling in terms of their life. 6k at me, I'm going to decide to counter out of this, and then they play the Marco. Now, I'm going to use the leader ability to swing 7k into the leader, and then focus on playing my Borsalino blocker. It's nice because I have a lot of flexibility to what I can do. Now, I swing 6k, I counter out of the Luffy, and then another 6k at me. I just decide about it, and I decide to just take. Now with 7 cards available, I use leader ability to get the up. I'm going to trash the Marco, which gets rid of its ability, and then enter in with a 7k that's countered against their Luffy. I love swinging at their characters because it's just it lowers their aggression, but also gives me a lot of opportunities for what I can or can't do. 6k into my 5k, I'm debating about it, and then I decided to just get rid of my Borsalino, just because they have the Luffy blocker as well. With 9 Dawns on the board, I have a lot of options in terms of what I can do, such as reducing cost and KOing, which I decided to do by reducing the cost of their Ace to 3 chaos, and then swing 6k into their Luffy, another 6k into the Luffy, kind of force their hand to get rid of cards, and use Jack ability to use KO their Ace. Now they still have the Luffy, which is very dangerous, and they play another Ace, which is going to be very scary for my board. 8k I let that go, and 6 to the 3k I have to let go as well. 7k I take that, and then they're stuck with 2 units on the board with this many Dawn. They have 1 Dawn up, and of course I could swing into them, but knowing Whitebeard, it's very risky, just because I know they have the ability to just have the counters in hand. So I actually play my Kuzan to get rid of their Ace, their Luffy. Now this forces them to swing into me. They can't KO me at this point, but I use the 3 cost characters, and then I take that life. With 6k, I take the life there, and they have enough for 5, and then I counter out with the 2. They surrender, which makes sense because I have enough to just swing big into them. We play a Sanji, which is also a fun leader, which is very aggressive as well. One of the difficult things about them is that if a character doesn't have on play, they get the ability of Rush, which is very, very scary. So with this case, I'm going to go second and decide to just pass my turn. They have 3 Dons available. They play their Sanji and use the ability to swing for 7. Now they're still going to swing 6k at me. I'm going to counter out to the 7 and take the 7 and counter out to 6k, swing 5k into the leader. And with 4 Dawn up, I have a lot of flexibility of what I can or can't do. I'm going to reduce the cost of their Sanji and get rid of it with my Brook to kind of work around what they have. Now I could have swung a bit, or done a little bit differently, but I decided to do it that way. They're swinging 7k at me, which I counter out with some counters, and there's 5k, which I just take, even though I should have just taken the 7k. In this case, I'm going to swing 6k into the leader, kind of force them to take a card. And it seems interesting because for every life I'm taking, they're taking as well. But I get rid of their Sanji because I just don't like giving them free 7k swings with my Garp ability. Now here, they're going to decide to, let's see. So here they decided to swing 7k into my Garp, which I counter out because I just like having it. Of course, they could use a unit, summon a unit to kind of try to KO it, but I do have a little bit of counter. In this case, they don't. They swing at my leader, which I decide to just take. Now, the Brook's going to come and be very interesting just because I can get rid of some cards, but instead I'm going to use the Ice Age to get rid of their character on the board. I'm going to swing 9k into the leader, give them down to 1 life, and play a Borsalino, which gives me a little bit of flexibility because I have a blocker now. So they're going to KO my Garp with their ability, with their event. I'm going to take the 7k swing and KO their Zoro with my Ice Age trigger. They're very strong, and they have a 5k, which they don't swing because I have a 6k blocker. Now I have 2 life left. I have a lot of options here, and of course, you know, I could just go for game. I'm going to swing 9k into the leader, kind of see what they counter or don't counter, and they don't counter out of it. With 1 life left, it's very risky. I have a lot of options available for what I can do, considering I have 6 Dons available, and they have like so many cards in hand. I decided instead to play my Brook just to play it safe, because my Borsalino blockers feels really good. Even if I played a 10 cost Shanks, I have a counter for their Sanji swing. This gives me a lot of flexibility, and of course I can block their Sanji swing as well. In this case, they draw, and they are contemplating it. Can they get past my blocker? What can they do to work this out? Okay, so they're going to swing 7k at me, which I use to counter out, which is very detrimental because it'll just stop them from being able to play like 2 blockers. Like they need a lot more swings left to get past this. And even with this units like Rush Luffy, my Borsalino cannot deal. Like there's just too much for them to deal with. Alright, so we're going to play a Nami. Nami's always a very interesting leader to play against. I always like to get one of the Nami games in because they're just so different the way they play. And of course, you know, you don't want to be that one deck that just gets destroyed by Namis because you're going to see like 1 Nami per tournament maybe. At least I don't like seeing Namis, and they're very strong, so I like taking out for it. They have their blocker up available, and I have to decide because I could just, you know, reduce the cost here. And get rid of it, which I decided to do. And in this case, I decided to swing 6k. So 2 6k swings, and then kind of get some cards out of their hands, and then take the life. Now in this case, we're going to decide they're going to play their Kaya, which is fine, because now I have units that can KO their Kayas, which I don't mind as well. They're going to do it twice, which is going to get rid of a lot of cards in hand, and they had played their blocker. I get rid of my Kobe, which I can't play, and then I'm going to use my both my Brook and my Garp to get rid of both their Kayas. I decided not to swing into them just because they had the blocker that does on KO, plus they had Dons available. They play their East Blue Searcher, which is going to be very interesting, get rid of some cards, and knowing that they have a lot of Dons up, and they play their Sanji's Pilaf. Now, with this case, I have to, I play my Garp just because it's so good for getting rid of some of their units. Now, I could have just... I used Brook also to get rid of the other character. Dream Zaw is available. They have the 6k, so now they're at 6k with, I believe, the White Snake, and then I'm going to swing a 6k into them, and then another 6k into them. Just kind of go really wide if you would. It's good because you either force them to get rid of cards in their hand, or they decide to just take. And now they have 2 life, and I feel pretty good, but they are getting closer to the end just because they have the Kaya searches being done, and they have more blockers. I have some decisions to make because I could just get rid of that, but then I decide to swing there and get rid of the blocker, even though I probably should have got rid of the Kaya, just because that's a pretty dangerous character. I should have just rested and Garp and done it, but I did want to pressure their units a little aggressively, so I'm going to swing 6, 6, 7, 7, 7. This I know is not going to go through just because they have so many cards left over, and because I have some, you know, only 2 Dawns left, with 3 Dawns up on their side. The 7k is not going to go through, but you know, sometimes you just got to swing at them and kind of just see where you land and force them to get rid of cards. Now we're getting really close to the end. They only have 13 cards available, and they play the Kaya out, which they didn't get KO'd last time. 9 Dawns available. We had to decide what would be the best route to do here. They played Sanji's Pilaf, and they have 5 cards left. Now, with 2 Dawns available, they don't have many options to counter out of this, and it's very interesting because they don't have many options to play, and they only have only a few amount of cards left, with 4 cards left in the deck. But if they have more Dawns, I'd be more scared. But with only 1 Dawn available, I feel really confident. But just to top it off, I'm actually have a lot of options here. So I'm going to first get rid of their Kaya, both of their units, and then play my Brook, which is going to force them to put 2 cards from their trash into their deck. Now that's so helpful because I know that it can't be just KO'd right away. Just with 7 cards in the deck, it's going to be very difficult for them to do so. Swing 2 5Ks into their leader, kind of force them to get rid of some cards in their hand. Can actually swing 9K to the leader with my leader ability. It's time to go shopping with AussieCon. So we're going to talk about the price of this deck list. Now, I make a lot of deck lists not off meta because honestly, building One Piece decks are very expensive. And that's one of the reasons why I'm motivated to kind of go off meta, because a lot of the One Piece card prices are fluctuated based upon the demands or how competitive they are. So I like building off meta decks for that reason. But let's walk through how much this deck would cost. Now this deck is a little heavy because it's very focused on a lot of the good cards out there, especially the Brooks, Laboons, and more. But let's look into how much this deck would cost you. With 51 cards, including the Smoker Leader at a base value, we're looking at $279.31. I try to pick the cheapest ones out there, and of course the Laboons, which is $29 each, which is big chunk of this budget. Now, the reason why we do off meta decks is to try to reduce the cost of some of the, the barrier of entry. That's why I want to give out this information for free. But if you want to support this channel and you're looking to buy decks, I'll be adding this portion here, including a tcgplayer referral link on the bottom. If you're looking to buy this deck list at $279, this is the place to go. tcgplayer is definitely very cheap to purchase cards. But with this, I hope you enjoyed this portion of the segment. And if you're looking to buy TCG players and looking to support the channel, I'd appreciate if you use my link down below. Thank you so much, and hopefully I see you at an event sometime soon. Alright, so that was our OP09 Smoker deck list. Now, I hope you've enjoyed that gameplay. I think one of the interesting things about this, as mentioned, is that it really works against Blackbeard because you don't do any on-play abilities. A lot of it's just playing Activate Main, reducing costs if you can, and even my reductions of costs are Activate Main or resting. So it's very difficult and frustrating for Blackbeard to just trash a card for no reason. And it's good against a lot of cards or leaders that play around, what we're going, playing what we play with. Now the difficult thing is you're going to see some leaders like Doflamingo that is just a little bit too hard because they summon so many wide, they go so wide, it's hard for me to catch up. But I think this deck has enough there to kind of like balance out some of the, not only the Blackbeards, but also some of the other meta leaders, because we have a lot of cards here that can just really disrupt what they're doing. In particular, I really liked having the bigger characters that just stay on the board, that are just KOing things left and right. And I think Smoker has a room to be competitive in this setup, in this OP09 meta. Now, one of the things I suggest though is getting some reps in. There are, let's be real, there's going to be so many Dofis out there, so this deck might need to just kind of tech around Dofi a little bit more. But overall, I had a great time. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and check out my TCG link mentioned below. Appreciate you guys. Catch you next time.